exactly. Do we need a clap for it or something?
Look at this.
Is this how streams start anyway? Silence until the go? I don't know.
Play some music.
Yeah, where's our intro music? All right, exactly. All right, so welcome everyone. Really excited to be hosting this event here at MIT on live streaming. I'm particularly excited about the group of people we have to speak to you because they are fantastic and doing really interesting work in this space. Just a few words about who we are and what we're doing here at MIT. This event is co-sponsored by two labs here at MIT as part of the Comparative Media Studies program. The MIT Game Lab, which does fantastic stuff around game design and development, a lot of classes, and then the Creative Communities Initiative, where we're really interested in what's happening in networked media, how people are using social media, online broadcast, all kinds of things to do interesting stuff. So those are the two initiatives sponsoring this event. And I wanted to just let you know, especially for those of you who are local, about some of the upcoming Game Lab events. So if you're in the area, you might be interested in attending. So we have on March 9th a screening of Game Loading, Rise of the Indies, and free, open to the public. You can find out all kinds of stuff about the Game Lab at gamelab.mit.edu. 16th, Boston Indies are going to be having their lecture here. One of the producers at Turbine will be coming around to talk. And then we're super excited too about on March 27th, 29th, we're doing an escape room game jam. If you've been following this stuff on escape rooms, there's some terrific posters up here you're welcome to take. So if you're interested in participating in that, there's a sign up there. And all of this is, I think Rick also, all of this is free, right? Everything's free, so. Okay, so welcome to the panel. Just a little bit about me. I'm T.L. Taylor. I'm a professor here in Comparative Media Studies. I wrote a book about esports called Raising the Stakes, and I realized when I was handing off that manuscript and it was going to press, very shortly thereafter, live streaming was really starting to break. And I thought, oh, I'll do an article about live streaming to kind of catch up the story. I'm now 2 years in, and I have a book coming out on live streaming, and I think it's really one of the most interesting things happening in this space. So I'll be moderating today's panel. I'll just say a few words about our guests, but I want to have them introduce themselves as well. I think many of you know them. On the end, we have Scott Smith, SirScoots. Yeah, I don't know if I should be calling you all by your...
We all have handles.
You got to go with your, yeah. JP McDaniel, itmeJP. Adam Ellohime here, and then we will have hopefully maybe showing up Renee Reynosa coming in. She's on a flight right now. She has laryngitis, so we're fighting factors, but hopefully she'll be running down the aisles at some point to join us. We're live streaming the event, so feel free to tweet out that we're live streaming it if folks want to watch who aren't here, and our Twitter handle for the Game Lab is up there as well. And I thought, even though you're seeing these folks here in person, I would just show you really quickly.
Oh no.
No, it's not bad, it's not bad. I've been saying lately, I'm a researcher, not a stream stalker. But just to give you a little context for the different kinds of worlds they are operating in, this is an image of Scoots.
What event was that, Scott?
Yeah.
Can you tell?
That's IEM San Jose, I think.
Okay. Backstage.
What's the date? Yeah, that's IEM San Jose.
Yeah. And here we have JP, I think doing, one of the things that...
Oh, why would you choose Dark Heresy? I'm going to get in so much crap for sure.
What I love about this is I think it's a good example of how folks on the platform are really pushing what can be broadcast, bringing something in like this and not just doing straight digital games. And then I think this one is classic of you because it has you in the dark shadows, the evening, the late night dark shadows. And it's also, I think, really indicative of your stream with your Vikings and people hanging out. So
good times.
Yeah.
Really had a good time.
Yeah,
were you on a trade run, or were you pirating?
I think we were we were robbing people that day, every day.
The game almost was.
And Renee's in here, but there's a shot of Renee's stream. So just so you get a sense of the work these folks are doing in live streaming spaces, and maybe just to get a sense of the audience, how many of you are watching live streams on a regular basis? And how many of you are streaming yourselves on a regular basis? Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so I'm not going to say a whole lot about live streaming. I think many of you know the space, thousands of people producing thousands and thousands of hours of content for each other every day range of things from big esports events all the way down to a couple people or nobody watching a stream that's just going out in the hopes of having someone come in. So with that, I thought, can we just have you all introduce yourselves a little bit and say how you came to live streaming, just to get a sense of your entry.
Start me?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Again, my name is Scott Smith. I go by SirScoots online. I am the oldest person on the panel, probably.
Nope.
But I have the youngest beard. So obviously I have to compete with these two guys. I got into live streaming in a probably similar to JP's story, but totally different than Adam's, in the sense of from an esports angle. Years and years ago, there was a website that I helped run and own called GotFrag. It was an ESPN, if you will, for the Counter-Strike world. Basically all in print or galleries of photos from events or live video, well not live, but video coverage of an event. And during this time when we were covering GotFrag, again, much like an ESPN would cover a sport, other companies around us were kind of delving into the idea of broadcasting those sports. Guys like DJ Wheat with ITG, they were doing Quake, they were doing Counter-Strike, they were doing all these different games, but they were doing them in what we would call radio shoutcast form, which basically they would literally join a shoutcast server, good old Winamp, and they would then tell their audience, hey, if you're watching this Counter-Strike match, go to this Half-Life TV, you had that in the game, so you went and used the game spec tools and you synced it with DJ Wheat's voice. And now you kind of, between the two, were watching the sport, but you were your own cameraman. And that happened for years, a variety of games. Again, guys like DJ Wheat, other companies like TSN. And we at GotFrag were sitting at the edge doing our thing, a lot of coverage, a lot of print, a lot of stats about the game, and we watched them, and oftentimes our experts of Counter-Strike would be their color commentary or their play-by-play guys. And we finally, the corner for those guys kind of turned, and they all started buying what were called VT5s or TriCasters. And they were starting to go from just being radio broadcasters with in-game tools to grabbing the in-game feed themselves, directing and producing it themselves, bringing it into a video mixer, and now they were their own TV station. And that's when we basically went, wait a minute, okay, we kind of do this too. We own this game way better than them. Counter-Strike is our game. We should now start doing this. Video, sports, we think it's a sport, we can produce it better. We already have a good chunk of the talent that was being the broadcast help, so we went for it. And we bought ourselves a VT5, which is a combination hardware-software solution. You jack all your cameras and all your computer inputs in, you jack in all your microphones, produce it all up, and now you're watching Counter-Strike as a sport. And that's how I got into it. First from, again, watching these guys and then going, hey, at GotFrag, we should do this. This is our game. And again, that was a long time ago. You had to buy bandwidth. You had to make deals with companies like OctoShape. It's come a long way since then. So that's how I kind of got into it. Now I've role reversed all the way to now where I basically will produce and direct content for other companies with their gear, IEM, BlizzCon, all these different companies, on more of a, again, esports competition level, less of a personal level. I just now this last year decided, hey, I've got all this gear. I will be a streamer too. And man, hats off to both you guys, because it is hard work to be that kind of streamer, right? The dedication you guys have to do every day to get up and go, this is no longer fun for me. I need to play a game to pay the bills. It's different, again, when you're behind the scenes at IEM and you're watching world-class StarCraft and you're directing a show. That's still got a little fun to it, and you leave. But again, these guys every day wake up and do this, and I've been trying, and I'll go like 5 days, and I'll be like, take a day off. Take another day off. And again, like you lose subscribers, you lose all this stuff. So long story short, that's how I got to here today.
Great. Yeah,
Cool.
JP.
My name's JP McDaniel. I kind of started out where this guy was my boss back at GotFrag.
Yeah, baby.
And that was, what, 6 years ago, something like that?
Oh, longer than that.
9?
Decade ago?
I was still in college, I think.
Yeah,
so.
even longer than that.
It was a long ass
Yeah.
time ago. So yeah, I started out as a journalist back then. That's what my degree's in. Then I realized that you can't make money by writing, so I decided to work for this guy. And I guess I was kind of like an intern back in the GotFrag TV days. I did some things for you guys, and then eventually I got a job at MLG, became a StarCraft 2 caster, and then went from casting to producing to directing, and then I decided to be like my own personal streamer. So that's where I'm at today. Short and
How
sweet.
often are you streaming these days?
It depends. Usually Monday through Friday I'm live at least 8 hours a day. Sometimes I'll go a little bit crazy and do 60 plus hours. Sometimes I'll keep it normal and do 40. So it just depends on the week and depends on, my content's a little bit different than I would say someone like Ellohime's, where I do shows with 5 other people. So my struggle is not so much streaming, it's coordinating 5 other people to be at a certain place at a certain time. And a lot of that just comes from my time at MLG, where I was a producer and that was my job anyways.
Right.
So now I'm both producing, I guess, directing and streaming it all myself.
Yeah, great, thanks. Elo.
Hi, I am Adam, or Ellohime is what I go by my handle online. I do not have a background in esports.
Good for you.
That's all right. Nothing wrong with that.
Thank you. No, when I started streaming, I was just out of college. At 27, I had just completed my community college AA degree. And I had the future was bright for me with my $200 and from my financial aid that I had left in my bank account. And what I decided to do was be responsible with that $200 and spend it on a founder's pack for this video game called Neverwinter. And I jumped on the forums early before the game started, and there's like this group that wanted to go in. If you guys know anything about MMOs, sometimes it's better to level with a group, or sometimes it's better to level solo, because we were like speed level into the top level as fast as we could, and we had heard rumors it was easier to group. So we each picked a class and we went in, and this was like an hour before we broadcasted. And these guys happened to be broadcasting their classes. And they said, well, you're the 5th guy, why don't you broadcast your class? And I was like, all right, what do I do? Like download this thing and put this key here and turn it on and you'll be live to the world. And I was just like, cool, let's do that. So I flipped it on, and the rest was history. I think the first stream I had like 400 people, and that's a really, really good first stream. And I had no idea that I thought that was normal to have that. So I didn't have a camera. I had a really crappy mic, and I was just like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing right now, look at this. And I had one of the higher level characters at the time, so people were interested in just seeing that. And it kind of grew from there. And I just took time to cultivate a community, and 2 years later, yeah, it's been quite a ride. So,
how would you all say that the first time you live stream compares to now? When you look back at that,
I don't want to watch the footage.
Why is that? Why is that?
I think Twitch has it saved, and I should delete the VOD immediately. I mean, it was. I think every stream that you do as a live streamer, you learn something both about the stream and kind of where you want to take it, and also, as cheap as it sounds, like you learn something about yourself, what you're good at, what you're bad at. And back then, you didn't know anything, so you just kind of played a game as if you were talking to someone who was sitting next to you on a couch. And it's generally not the best thing to do when it comes to streaming. Like, there wasn't that much chat interactivity with me, and I was kind of quiet in the game. It was probably a very boring stream to look back. But, I mean, what about y'all?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, again, less of a personal streamer and more of, like, I guess, a business streamer for
Absolutely.
esports.
Absolutely.
To me, it's live theater. So it's got all the pros and cons of that. Nothing more stressful in the world of production than something that's live. I've never been one to, even back in the Got Frag days, film something, go back, edit it, chop it up. Never for me, like,
Always
can
live.
I swear? Like,
Yes.
fucking do it live. And pray that you do it well live. So I always, and now I'm far, I used to be the button pusher, so I was kind of calling the show and actually pushing the buttons on the TriCaster back in the Got Frag days. So now I sit in this haloed position with a nice script that I wrote. Camera 2, ready, go. But it's again, you're calling cues in a very live, and again, it is sports. Whether we could talk about the athleticism of esports, but the act of them playing and the way they compete and how it's set up, very sports-like. 2 teams enter, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And I get just as nervous now, if not maybe more so, because way more people are watching streams than when we did Got Frag CPL with 4,000 people watching. But again, you still get that, like, all right, are you guys ready? You ready? Here we go. And that kind of motivates me. And now at home, when I do it, I even still, and you guys probably don't get nervous, but I still get nervous. My little countdown thing's going. I'm like, all right, man.
Actually,
look
you have a hard time with this, don't you?
Yeah.
Generally, it's your friends who are kind of tuned in to watch you, right? They're either subscribing to you or they're familiar with you. So you shouldn't maybe get so nervous. But again, I feel like I'm producing a live show. I overproduce it because I use stupid expensive gear.
Yeah, that's why you're so nervous, because you have like 40,000
Too many things to
knobs.
worry about, right? But I still, and then you kind of fall halfway in, you're talking to everyone, you start gaming, and it kind of all goes away. And again, like you're in your living room, it's a much bigger living room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my stream was driven a lot by the community and the viewers early on. Like, they were pushing for things more than I was. I was just enjoying myself, and I didn't even understand the concept of having a partnership or a sub button or quality options, all these things that become available to you once you are partnered with the website. And they were very like, go for it. Go for your partnership. Go, you know, do this, do that. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just keep following whatever you guys are telling me to do. And now, obviously, it's what I love to do, and it's fun. But it's also a business. It's what I use to support my family, and I've built a family now because of the streaming and the atmosphere there. And yeah, it's a totally different game. It's a completely different game. It's something where you're just kind of jumping in, and you're just like, oh, this is just fun and exciting, and it's new, and people are coming in and they're talking to me and they're watching, and now, you know, like, you get up in the morning and you're like, oh, is my social media in place? Am I hitting the right places? Is my positioning correct in here? Now, granted, I'm always having fun. That's my number one rule, is to have fun. But when it comes to, you know, growing a stream, especially when there's thousands of other streamers, you have to be cognizant of where you're at, your positioning, how many people are watching you, what game you're playing, that kind of stuff. So from the beginning, probably the biggest change is just how cognizant I've been of everything that is involved.
I think that's a great point. Like, back then, when we turned the stream off, at least for me, I was done. Like, that was my work being over. Now, like, I don't actually stop working until I'm asleep. And then I wake up the next morning and I'm right back at it. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, like, as a streamer, you're pretty much always working. And it takes a certain type of person, I feel like, to always be, like, on the grind, I guess is a lot of the terminology that we always use is, you're always working at something, whether that's social media or setting up what game you're going to stream, which takes probably sometimes an hour sometimes, or you just look at the top streams and see what someone else is streaming and try to catch their audience when they go offline. And there's a lot of, like, not politics, but there's certain tactics that you can use where other streamers and positioning yourself behind them that no one really thinks about when it comes to just watching a stream. I'm
really glad you mentioned that, because you're anticipating one of my questions I wanted to talk to you all about is the work of streaming. Because I think a lot of people, you know, it's exciting and we all tune in and watch. But what is the work behind the scenes, the prep, the decisions around which game, this game but not that game, time slots, whatever it may be?
It varies between people.
Yeah, exactly.
It does. And there is no faster way to piss off my viewership than when I go, streaming is hard. Like, there's no faster way to piss them off, because what they see is a guy who sits down and plays a video game for a while, collects a bunch of money, and then, you know, rolls around in his bed and singles, I guess. I'm just saying that, like what they see isn't what goes.
It's different between each streamer. I don't roll around. I do the doubles.
Oh, you do the. Oh, okay, cool, awesome.
You like coins.
I'm not at your level yet, JP. No, there is a lot of work that goes into it, because a lot of what you're doing could probably have somebody doing the job within itself, such as replying to private messages, secretarial work. Everything that we do is us. So when you're thinking about a broadcast, you're thinking about, you know, the camera, the lighting, the editing, the live performance. We're also the talent. You know, we're taking all of that and we're putting into one place to make a production. Then after that comes the context, the networking, the contracts. Then you've got the social media and the artwork you have to make, and the sponsorships, and it just starts becoming such I mean, I can't tell you how many times my girlfriend's in the back of the room and I've been like, I'm gonna come down in like 15 minutes, I'll be down in 15 minutes, don't worry about it. And yeah, no, it does not. No, 3 hours later I walk down, the food's cold and everything, and she's just, okay, you know, I figured you wouldn't be here for a while. So, but there is it's just a lot of work that you really have to do. Now, and that depends on what you want to do on Twitch. Not everybody wants to be the big successful streamer and with all the viewers and everything. Some people totally enjoy going on there as a hobby and streaming to, you know, a handful of people, and they love that. But yeah, I think if you want, you know, to really kind of climb the ladder there, you've got to put in so much work. And I don't think people realize that, honestly, but it's good.
Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think like I would put myself in that second category. Like, I flip the gear on. Yes, I do have a partnership and a sub button, but it doesn't drive me financially in that sense. Like, I need to make this my job. So I'm kind of in a privileged position there. But as I start doing it, generally, then you start getting these subs, and you're like, God, I should just keep doing this. This is good. This is really good. I think another thing that people, because it's been made so easy to stream and to watch streams, in the sense of, there's so many platforms, but Twitch obviously, but there are other platforms. But the idea that any kid can grab his console or his PC and fairly inexpensively at least get a stream up there, maybe not super high quality, maybe not a nice camera in front of him, makes the general population think what you all do every day or what an esports company does in the sense of showing it is really easy. And it's just not. Just like you guys go through your prep, on the esports side, you have scripts and you're writing show flows for months. You're dealing with guys making your graphics. And just because you did StarCraft 2 months ago or whatever game, you have to re-rack it, do it all again. And again, those viewers tune in and they think, just like they think when they watch sports on TV, they have no idea there's 4 semis, trucks full of people and gear making it happen. We don't have all the trucks yet, but the same kind of gear gets laid out in a different format, and it's just not easy. We have the technology problems are twofold. Not only are we always on the cutting edge of the technology use, you buy everything you possibly can to enhance your stream. Well, doesn't always work, right? You have to go, this doesn't work, send it back. And the esports companies are doing the same thing. Like, they're riding the curve way more than traditional media. We've talked about that kind of stuff. And stuff goes wrong. Tasteless has that saying where, the technology of esports, when it breaks, when a game crashes, it hurts you guys when you can't get on. Like, obviously, you're a big H1Z1 streamer right now. When the servers are down all day, what does JP do for content? Right. If you're in the middle of a tournament and Valve patches Counter-Strike, what do you do? Sorry, folks, gotta wait. And the people at home, again, just don't. I think people at home in general never get how difficult jobs are, right? Until you do them. And again, very general comment, but I think you take someone behind the scenes of your desk or behind an esports stage, and then you go, oh, whoa, right? That guy does that. It's just crazy. So I think that's why I like to see behind the scenes stuff, right? Like, I was lucky enough at IAM San Jose, they hit me up and said, Scott, we want to show the tech table. We want you to walk us through. I'm like, great, because people think it's one little capture card, it's a couple cameras, and all the casters, the broadcasters out there at the desk all buttoned up are doing all the hard work, right? And they're not at all. There's 20 guys behind them making those 2 people look really, really good, and obviously making the players look good. So, again, I just think it's...
So prep for you is writing scripts, coming up with a stage plan?
Yeah, I mean, sports is a story, right? So what is the storyline going into this tournament? Who's the team or the player to look out for? Who should win? Who's not going to win? And obviously I don't do that alone. Generally, I'm hired by an IEM or an MLG or someone, so we're doing that together. I don't make the graphics. Someone else would go make our graphics package. What's it going to look like this time? And then once you're on site, you're prepping the talent, saying, okay, this is the storylines we want to kind of talk about. Other than the basic stuff, here's your brackets, here's your groups, but hey, if this guy wins this, this is the 4th time he's won. That means something. Talk about that this weekend. Right. And again, just like sports, you steer the talent, as we call them, the broadcast talent, into storylines to kind of continually bring those up, And again, I do a lot of Counter-Strike stuff, and at the analyst desk usually. So again, I'm kind of in charge of verbally directing that story. Hey, Nip's been in finals every single time. What are their chances? All those kind of things. And again, back to the original question, I just think whatever you're doing out there, and again, in our world, it kind of started with YouTube content, right? Before there was live, there was lots of people making money and making really good content on YouTube, right? And they still are, don't get me wrong. I think you now see a shift of some of those personalities, as well as it goes both ways now. Some guys that only used to care about live now realize, hey, I need to put my content on YouTube. It's another avenue. And again, also not an easy thing. Sure, you could film, but to edit something really good and engaging, not easy.
Right. Yeah. JP, what about your prep? How do you approach that? What you're going to play, when you're going to play?
I think for me, the easy part is, once you're live and you're playing the game, you can go for 8 hours and then you finish. For me, is the hard part is like when you finish, I have like a mental checklist of everything that I want to do. And a lot of time he was mentioning how I always just mess with things. I have an issue where I buy the latest and greatest of whatever, and then I try to make it work and it never does. And I think that's probably one of my faults as a streamer, is that I try to do too much stuff with too much new tech, and I'm always above the curve in a sense, where I have different resolutions that are much higher than you can actually stream, or I have a capture card that's in Japanese and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing with it. Just a bunch of different stuff like that. So once I go live, it's pretty simple, but the prep behind it, it depends on what the show is. If it's like an actual show and not a stream, and we're debuting that day, then it's 5 or 6 overlay packages. It's kind of like a full-on MLG production, not of that level at least, but we have the full graphics package that I have to send to a graphics guy. Then we go back and forth on what we want it to look like, how many people are going to be on the show, if we want to do anything with putting it in HTML5 format, if we just want like a straight up PNG, and I'm dropping a bunch of jargon, but it's all that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
But if it's just a normal stream, it's kind of the same thing day in and day out. So then it's just like, what do I want to play today? What's doing well on Twitch when it comes to certain games, or is there a streamer that I could play something with today that would help the audience or help grow an audience, and different things like that.
Yeah.
So.
I'm glad you raised that point, because one of the things I wanted to ask all of you is this decision about what to stream. I remember asking a streamer once, like, are there some games like you'll keep for yourself? And they were like, yeah, like this one is not for the stream. So how do you decide what game? And it may really, I don't know, maybe it'll vary by your audiences and...
It does. It varies by audience, but I think more so it varies by hype. So what a lot of variety streamers, I consider myself a variety streamer, meaning I stream a lot of different games and a lot of different genres. I'm more of an entertainer than a skilled player, like in esports, player would be. So a lot of the times I will pick games that, well, first of all, like I said, I keep saying, I want to make sure that I'm going to have fun. This is a game that I'm interested in, I'm invested in some way. And then look for those games that both follow the criteria of being fun and have a lot of hype behind them. And to explain hype, basically, either the companies have thrown a lot of advertisement out there, or it's a title that is coming into its second or third, run, or something like that. Something that people are talking about, and you'll know because the people in your chat will talk about it, and they'll say, "Are you going to play this? Or are you going to play that? Are you going to, do this or that?" And that can kind of guide you a little bit, but. Basically, yeah, I think at this level, when I'm thinking about trying to get the most viewers or build the biggest community or something like that, it would mostly be hype games for me. So I look for those games that are just newly released, especially if we can get our hands on a copy early. If we can get our hands on a copy early before it's released and nobody else has that content, whenever we're showing that content to people, they really, really, really enjoy watching that. Because this is not only content I haven't seen before, but I'm also watching my favorite person play this who's going to tell me exactly how they feel about it. It doesn't matter, so.
To speak to that, there's been a shift since kind of, I guess, the late 90s, where print media was basically dying when it came to covering games. And for now, like, I would say, to make up a random statistic, I think like 70% of people, when it comes to buying a game, they don't go and watch a review. They don't go and read what Game Informer magazine has to say. They go and watch a Twitch stream, because you're going to get, most of the time, like a real opinion on it, or at least you can form your own opinion on what you're seeing in real time. So when it comes to that, like, that is kind of what a lot of streaming is, at least when it gets to the bigger streamers, is you're always trying to find that next game, right? You're always trying to find what's going to be something that is enjoyed by many people, or something that people want to see. I think a perfect example that happened recently is a game called Darkest Dungeon. And here's a game that, in terms of the streaming criteria that's needed in the game for it to be good, has pretty much everything. It's difficult, there's a skill curve in it, it makes the streamer really pissed off when things don't happen, and there's a lot of RNG that'll cause for that to go wrong. And it started off, and this was a game that had a little bit of hype behind it, and I think, I don't know who got it first. There was a bunch of different streamers that they gave it to first. And there was,
Cobalt Street,
yeah, Cobalt Street got it.
The main menu group, a lot of them.
That's right, yeah.
A lot of them got it.
They did a little bit of a sponsored stream with it, and all of their numbers shot up crazy. And this was actually on Super Bowl Sunday, where I believe the game was at like, was it 100,000 viewers on Super Bowl Sunday or something like that, site-wide?
Yeah, it was quite a bit. I can't remember the exact number, but it was something around
Lyric
there.
got up to like 40K with it, and then everyone else was streaming as well, so maybe like 80K. But it was one of those games where everyone was riding the hype of this game. And that actually still kind of stands true with the game. I know a bunch of streamers that have actually, before that they were like 100, 200 viewer concurrent. And now they kind of built their stream on that game, and now they're getting like 400 average all the time, or 600 average all the time. So it's always just like riding the hype.
But your streams, I mean, the photo I showed, I think one of the things I find most interesting about your streams is how you're not picking always hype game, right? You're doing you're doing D&D on
I'm kind of an idiot, right?
That's don't hype. That's
still hype
nowadays too. This online role playing stuff. So
yeah. The D&D thing is weird. I think the more that I stream that, I realize that people tune into that for the story more than the actual game. And they get interested in kind of the characters that people are creating and the people that I bring on, the bigger personalities. So we've had like Total Biscuit come on before. And when he comes on, a lot of new people come in and they see that, you know, we're actually making characters that people generally care about, much like a TV show. And we've got like 700 plus hours of content online for the show. And I know people that binge watch it just like they do Netflix. And so that's a little bit different when it comes to my, I guess, type of streaming. But I still do the hype game things just as everyone else.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, and I want to say something about positioning too. And when we say positioning, what we mean is on the Twitch main page, there are kind of top 12 games. And any game that you go into will have its top broadcasters, and it's categorized by the people who have the most views down to the people who have the least. So when we're talking about positioning, not only do we want to get ourselves in an area where there's a game that's hyped up, but we also want to strive to be the first person in that category of
or
people
the second
there.
person.
Or
so
the second
first person
that
goes offline, you get everyone's the first person streamer. Yeah.
And the thing is that because typically we've, at least I found, and I'm sure a lot of other streamers can attest to this, is when somebody goes in to see the content, they go directly to the place that has the most viewers. Like when they're walking in for the first thing, they see this guy has, 6,000 people, and this guy has 2,000. Something about the 6,000 must be cool because everybody's in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the 6,000. Nobody
and that
opens
just happens subconsciously. That's not like an obviously thing that they're thinking.
Exactly. I don't know very many people that open up the top 5 streams, watch all of them, and say, I really click with this guy's style of streaming. Like, it doesn't happen that way. So when we're talking about positioning, not only do we want the game to be exciting, amongst the community, but we also want to position ourselves in a place where we're going to be in that top spot. And like JP had said, echoing what he said, sometimes that's placing yourself behind somebody who only streams from this time to this time. Yeah. So when he gets off, you're going to hopefully absorb all those viewers. And so, I mean, that is another thing that factors into it that's really important.
A lot of it has to do with like the time that you stream. So tell everyone your crazy hours that you stream.
And why you do it then.
Yeah, it's actually really smart.
Well, I mean, it started that way, and then it kind of made a lot of sense anyways. When I first started streaming, like I said, those buddies in my group, they wanted me to download OBS, which is a program that we use for streaming, and I downloaded it at midnight, and by the time I was done setting everything up for a stream, it was about 4 a.m. So in the morning Eastern time. So I flipped on my stream, and that was that. And I have been waking up, I would say probably on average for the last 2 years, probably about 5 days out of the week, every morning at about anywhere from 2 to 4 a.m. and I stream from 2 to 4 a.m. all the way around until 10 to noon in the morning, Eastern time. And it is a time where a lot of other people are sleeping. A lot of gamers like to stream into the evening, into the early hours, and then quit. And it left me in positions right behind really, really popular streamers at the time, which got me a lot of exposure. And it also hits the European and Australian viewership quite a bit too. So like I come to an event like this, and I might run into people that know me, and I shake hands, and I love it. But it wouldn't be the same as me going across seas to the European viewership, because I think that I'm much more popular over there just based on my times. But it's a really, really, really solid time. Low volume of viewers ultimately on Twitch at that time, lower I would say than prime time. But I'm not competing with a lot of the other big names, during that space. So it is basically what I built my stream on, is taking advantage of that. You get used to it. Just just like anything you make up.
It's basically graveyard shift. Exactly.
And it's it
works out.
Scoots, you've been around esports long enough that you probably have some thoughts on games. Which games work well for streaming and broadcasting, and which don't? And does this? How is this conversation playing out with the space these days?
I think esport-wise, we find out very quickly by playing and watching what games will rise to the top and be an esport. You can't throw marketing dollars at a game developers. You can't do this and call it an esport, and then we're just gonna go, oh, it's an esport. Like community, the players, the world around that game makes it or breaks it as an esport. But what makes a good stream game? I don't even think there's an answer to that, because when you mentioned the game you mentioned, Darkest Dungeon DD, I thought of a different DD. That Duck Dynasty game you played was the most horrible game I've ever seen anyone stream, and I loved watching you play it. So I think there's entertainment value, and a lot of streamers will do that. They'll go look for these wacky, silly, stupid games, not the mainstream AAA titles. And again, there's a place for those. I mean, if that guy makes that Freddy's thing one more time, like it's the same.
No, the third one came out. Like
I know.
Yeah.
But it's silly. But again, people
It's
watch
great
it. People
to
love
view.
to play it. So I don't think. I think what makes a good game to stream is whatever people get entertained by.
It's actually true. There's a weird thing right now with games, especially on Steam when it comes to the greenlit games, which are kind of the unofficial games that aren't really out, but they can't get on Kickstarter and things like that. YouTubers will actually find these games and make videos of them, and they will actually make the game huge because they're showing how shitty it is. And people will watch these videos and they're like, oh, I want to go play that terrible game. And I mean, there's a billion of those games right now that most YouTubers prefer a bad game to a good one because they want to be able to show something stupid happening, where people want to watch those videos rather than watching, I don't know, the newest Dragon Age video or whatever.
It made me think though when, oh, sorry,
No, I was just gonna add a little bit to that. I think it goes into like a kind of a deeper place, because this is one of the few places in media where we can see somebody experiencing the game or the art or whatever that they're getting involved with. If you watch somebody watch a movie for 2 hours, you know, sometimes it's interesting if they're talking about it or something like that, but typically they can have an emotional response to what they're playing, and you can watch that. It's not very interesting, but for some reason with games, and what I think makes streaming so interesting, people ask me all the time, like, why do people watch you play video games? And the answer is because people like how they like to watch me experience these games. And it's different for every single streamer. The way that, you know, JP goes through a game is not going to be the same way I go through a game. It's not going to be the same way Waffle goes through a game. It's not going to be the same way Tally goes through a game. We're all going to have a different experience walking through this together. And I think that makes it interesting as a form of entertainment, because I don't think you get that in a lot of other forms of entertainment. So, yeah.
Is it the same reason for esports why people watch?
I think the exploration of the new game doesn't exist in that sense, but I think, again, much like sports, people are into that game and they want to watch the best in the world compete at it. So if you're a baseball fan, you're going to watch baseball. If you're a basketball fan, if you're a Counter-Strike guy, you're going to watch as much Counter-Strike as you can. Kind of a different entertainment medium in the sense of why it's delivered, but I guess certainly just as engaging, but maybe sometimes not as engaging, because again, when we raise it up, and you talk about it in your book about these pros going from it being fun for them to being a job, and it's no longer fun playing the game, it's fun going to competitions and winning, and that gets driven. So we have to, when we do production of it, we kind of button up. We're a little more professional. We're a little less loose, depending on what company you're working for. Like DreamHack is notoriously a little more casual for how their casters can dress or act or look or swear or not swear. IEM, MLG, a little bit more buttoned up, a little bit more, proper broadcasters. And so that fun kind of goes away, and you have to deliver this kind of perfect sport. Whereas you tune into I see all these guys that are streamers, and their personality comes out. Like Red Eye is a prime example, right? Red Eye is an amazing human being, got a great personality, but all of that can't come out of Red Eye when he's on those stages. Sometimes, if he's having that casual conversation, he can, but he has to button it up. You guys, your audiences collectively would tear you apart if all of a sudden you weren't you anymore, right?
And I think that's how, because I transitioned from the type of people that he's talking about.
Right.
You hate it. You hate us now. It's okay. I love it.
I do.
On behalf of esports, can we just hug it out, bro?
I'm not esports. But I started out as kind of the stiff caster, as he's mentioning. And coming over to the streaming thing, I had to kind of retrain my brain how to act when a camera's on in front of me. And it was really weird to be able to think about that. I don't know if anyone ever saw that or had to do that, but for me, I never even thought about that I actually had to retrain everything. Where it was I'm still deadpan, but it's very monotone, I would have the welcome to the stream, I'm JP McDaniel, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm just hey, what's up? It's very social when it comes to
after
that.
your fancy esports intro that you now have.
Yeah, that's true. I do have fancy.
Well, I mean, it's just like in the real world. You would when I go to watch a sporting event, you know, it's not the same as me watching a comedian go up on stage for, you know, however long and do a skit. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's comparable, at least to me. So if, you know, I'm going to go watch, you know, the basketball players, it's like me watching the StarCraft 2, you know, thing. And there's a huge community behind that, just like there's sports guys, and there's people who just like comedy, and there's people who just like to be entertained, and they want to see a guy go in front of him. He might not be the best player. I certainly am not, in any means, but I can entertain some people. You know, not everybody, but some people like my entertainment. So those people come and they watch, and I think it's just I think it shows a lot of dynamic within Twitch. You know, just the different types of audiences. We have so many different communities. We have the speedrunner communities, which are the people that love watching games completed quickly, like even old games, like super old games. Then you've got like the variety streamers, who are basically people like me who run around in games and dick around and have fun. And then you got like the esports, the guys who are really good, and you just get to see the skill of some of these guys and the time they put in, the dedication and everything. And there's all these different aspects, and it's all there on Twitch. And it's cool to see. I mean, I know, like, some evenings I want to watch that skill, you know, and so I'll jump into those. And some nights I just want to watch somebody run around and beat a zombie to death with their own arm, you know, like, I don't know, I'm just saying, so, yeah.
You're hitting on something I'm always curious about, is this sort of relationship between, on the one hand, it seems like a lot of variety casting, you know, audiences value some sense of authenticity. We're getting a sense of who you are. And I mean, the camera in the bedroom is probably like the most interesting aesthetic version of that, where you see people's unmade beds behind them. But on the other hand, I don't know, you know, there's a certain amount of performance, it seems, that also goes into doing a stream. So how do you think about this relationship between yourself on stream and camera versus the performing self, and like, okay, the camera's off.
Yeah.
My girlfriend, I think she says it the best way, and she says it's a version of you. Like, it's the more excited, more, you know, entertaining version of you. It's still you, and people see you. But yeah, you do. It's not. I wouldn't say I put on a persona. It's not like wrestling where I run out. I'm just like,
but that does exist.
But that does exist. Oh yeah, that does exist, and it does so well.
Future man gaming,
But it is definitely. It's like, I'm not going to get in front of you guys here and just be like, "Hey, is everybody having a good day? Okay, cool. Let's play a video game." You know, like the same kind of intensity that I give to my broadcast. So that's what she said. It's a different version of you. It's more honed in on those skills that you feel is adequate for what you need to accomplish, which is entertaining this large group of people, you know, over the internet playing video games. So, JP, you look like
I think for me, I finally kind of figured it out having dinner with my aunt about 2 weeks ago. And my family has always had a hard time understanding what I do, as I think we've probably, any streamer has a hard time explaining to your family what you do.
So you play video games?
Yeah, my grandma.
And you make money?
Yeah. My grandma still has no idea what the hell's going on.
What's a video game?
Exactly. And they all, like, growing up, I was kind of the quiet guy that was always in his room. They had no idea how I was gonna make money when I grew up.
Yeah.
And now they're just kind of like, how did you, like, you don't even talk to us twice a month, and yet you're broadcasting, like, always talking, always emotive, I guess, on screen. So I think for me, it's almost, I guess maybe a part of me is I'm that talkative person on stream, but as soon as it goes off, like, I keep kind of everything to myself. And I'm a very quiet person off stream.
I feel like I've talked to a lot of streamers who sort of identify as shy, introverted. And
I would say I'm very introverted.
Yeah, something about streaming allows some other aspect to.
I'm outgoing to the people that I enjoy being outgoing to, like the people that I'm close to. Sure. Yeah, like there's just some people that you click with, you know, and it just brings out a certain social aspect of you. And I enjoy being social like that in the right crowd. But it's funny, for some reason, whenever I'm in front of the camera, I'm not seeing anybody, and so I just allow myself to be that person to everybody.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No,
okay.
I think there's something that needs to be said about, like, being in a room with the door shut, with a camera on you, and you don't really think about how many people are actually watching you. Yeah. You're just talking to a camera. Yeah.
It's a great point, because I've been trying to interview people in their homes, like go and watch them do setups, and the number of streamers who've actually I've interviewed, who've gone like, no, I don't want somebody there watching me. It's really
that would
interesting.
be kind of creepy.
Yeah, exactly.
Although they're all watching you.
They are.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I've said things in front of thousands of people that I would never.
Oh
tell.
yeah.
I watch back through and I'm just like horrified.
Yeah.
Mom, please never watch my stream, Mom, please.
That's the one thing I hope my parents never, like, I know they
My
watch
mom
my
does.
stream, but
My mom does all the time.
I hope they never watch those specific parts where I'm just like, oh God, I can't believe I just said that on stream, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens every day for me.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the next thing I wanted us to talk a little bit about is, you know, so you've got thousands of people watching, and I guess one of the things I'm wondering about is how you think about that massive number of people watching. Are they audience, fans, friends, community? I mean, all these sort of different words, and it may be that, you know, different groups, different kinds of casters think about them differently, but how do we think about audience in the age of live streaming?
Kind of everything you said could fit under community, and I think that's probably the most response you'll get from streamers is that we all have our own community and we think of them as our community. And some people, I guess my community would know that, you know, every once in a while I'll call them out. Like I'll just whatever they say in the chat, we can have like an active discourse with one another where if they say something I don't agree with, I'll be very strong with my words and how I disagree with them. But some streamers will be, they'll treat it kind of as a friend relationship. Or some streamers, you know, a lot of them don't even talk to the chat unless there's a tip that comes in. So it depends like where you're at as a streamer. And I think we could all say it's a community, but what that community actually is differs from streamer to streamer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of all of those things. You know, like you said, it's community. You know, I have people that I've just ran into in games and they've become a huge part of the stream now. I've had people that I've just watched and become moderators, which are people that help with the chat and, you know, take on hours and hours and hours out of their life to help my stream for no pay. You know, like there's people who come casually and they watch and, you know, they move on to the next stream, and, you know, you get all these different people and you start, I mean, I'm a lot different from you because I don't like to call out my viewers. Like I try to keep it very you know.
I'm known as kind of an asshole.
You're Candyland, and here we are.
My name is King Shit for a reason.
Yeah. So like I always try to encourage a stress-free environment. You know, like I want everybody, everybody has, you know, relationships, school, jobs, all that shit that they go through every day, and I want them so bad when they come to my stream to know this is one place where we can have some fun, we can respect each other, and we can all, you know, take part in a hobby that we all enjoy. You know, and that's what I want. And so occasionally if I have that one guy come in and he trolls me, he's like, hey, you fat ass, and beard, your neck beard, you think you're funny? And I'm just like, okay, ban. And then I don't have to see him ever again unless he makes 20 accounts under different emails and comes back. But it's the community. That's really what it is. It's people who have become close friends to me over the course of what I've been doing. It's people who, you know, casually stop in and say hello. You know, and these people have lives too. We have people who are military people that watch from, you know, way across the sea, and they, you know, we watch every morning when we can, and blah blah blah. And you know, you have that kind of relationship and this kind of relationship with these people and this guy, and you know, then you got your biggest supporter and your biggest donator, and he's in there supporting you. You know, maybe when others can't, if they wish they could. You know, like it's very cool, and what's even cooler is to see all these people connect with each other.
Right.
And that's when like the real cool stuff, you know, really starts, because you start to see that community really come to life, even when you're not there.
That's the weird thing, is when the community starts making things about your stream when you didn't prompt them to, like wikis start popping up, or crazy fan art starts popping up for characters that we do on our show.
Right.
And it's like really, really talented stuff, and there was nothing to prompt them to do that. And I think that's kind of, you know, a lot of people wonder, like, what is the when you made it as a streamer? I think it's when your community starts making things without you prompting them to do so.
That's interesting. What about do we call esports community, or is it audience? Is it community?
I mean, they're fans of the game, right? Just like you know, basketball, baseball, football, whatever. I think like obviously our mission there is to provide, and I always battle other directors and other people in the industry, because everyone. Raise your hand if you have an ego. We all have egos, right? Some bigger than others, right? And when you're producing, a little different when you're producing your own stuff. And I'm tuned in to watch you. But when you're producing a Counter-Strike tournament or StarCraft or Hearthstone or anything, you have to always take off your own hat, and it's not about what I want to see, because that could be the minority. It's you really have to, because I will often produce tournaments for games that I am not super knowledgeable in the sense it's not my favorite game. Counter-Strike is, but like I've done Hearthstone stuff, I've done StarCraft stuff, and I know those games, but I don't know them necessarily intimately. So that's when you have to defer to those that have come before you and what people are used to seeing in front of them, whether it's the interface or an analyst desk or how many commercials you go to. And oftentimes it'll be like, no, let's show them this will be great. And you're like, flip it around. Pretend you're that kid sitting at home. That's a terrible piece of content. Let's not show that. Yes, it fills 3 minutes, and yes, someone had to go make it, but it's bad. And you know, and that's where it kind of shifts a little bit, because they're not tuned in to watch me. They're tuned in to watch those two guys over there battle for money, and I have to step away. That ego has to go away, and I got to go, okay, if I am the most hardcore StarCraft fan, what do I want to watch all weekend? What are the storylines? What do my graphics look like? What, you know, that you tell them their story. It's the and it's same people, like bad directors make movies they want to see. Good directors make movies they know millions of people want to see, right? And that does take compromise, right? Because maybe your idea is awesome, and it really would be cool to see it happen. But in reality, if 80% of the people watching it don't get it or don't want to see it, it shouldn't fill space, right?
Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about your viewers when you're streaming just on your stream, like outside of the esports? Yeah,
so the opposite side, for me as a personal streamer, I am so low in the sense of how many people tune in. I would say that I either know a lot of, I still am at that point where I know them. Like literally, if I turn my stream on and 40 people show up, 25 of them I know personally. Either I've met them at events or I've known them for years. Like they're still my buds tuning in, right? I have not had that watershed moment where I've gone from everyone knows Scoots, oh, Scoots is streaming cool, to like, who is this Scoots guy? This guy's amazing. Like, there's already a connection with me. And again, and I also tend to play games very close to the vest. I'm not a variety streamer. I'll do Counter-Strike or one or two other games, and that is not good in the sense of wanting to have a broader audience, right? Because I'm a bad Counter-Strike player, right? I am not who you want to watch, pro-wise, right? You'll tune in to watch me yell at.
I'll watch.
You'll watch me yell and scream and throw names at JP's head and stuff. So that is a very limiting factor in the sense of someone who cares about Counter-Strike. They want to watch Hiko stream because he's one of the best in North America. So if you're into getting better at Counter-Strike, you watch those guys. If you want to laugh, you want to watch me team kill, you tune into guys like me. And there's room for all that, right? So I think I have such a small. Like I have 25 subs, right? And I'm going to lose probably 5 of them because I'm here and I haven't streamed in 2 weeks already, right? I know you guys lose in the hundreds when you come. So,
thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. Glad you're here. Glad you're here, though. Don't cancel the subs.
If you're at home watching.
Don't cancel the subs. So again, I just think it's two different worlds. Again, at home, I am still very much streaming what I want to play. And I know that somewhere along the way, you have to do a little bit of a shift and go, oh, I want to play that, but I probably maybe should play that this week because it's just coming out to build my own. But again, I'm not like you two gods at all when it comes to that.
How much, like for you, how much emphasis is on it for new games? Will you always stream a new game, or will you stick to what you want to play?
No, because I
think it varies from streamer to streamer. Right?
Yeah, I think it does. I typically, again, the big thing is fun. If I'm not going to play and I learned this. This was not something that I just, whatever. I learned this should be a rule because I've streamed games simply for the hype of it, and it worked. Like, I had thousands of follows, and I got the exposure that I wanted, and all those things that I want to be successful, as on the business side of things. But the thing is like I jumped into this because I love gaming,
right.
And then when I'm jumping in and I'm tainting the one thing that I love more than anything. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. There's whispering, and I'm ADD here. No,
he's complimenting my beard.
Okay. No, my biggest thing is I don't want this ever to feel like a job. And I don't want myself to, and it has at times, and I've made it that way, because I said I have to stream this game today. I have to stream this for the numbers, and I've gotten that mindset, and it took me a very long time to finally go, you know what? It will not kill you to play a game that you really enjoy, that is going to get you half the numbers, it's going to get you half the follows, right. It's fine. And I look for those things that line up, that I'm going to have fun and I have an interest in and an investment in already without thinking about the streaming. And then, you know, when the hype comes in right behind it, it makes it really easy for me. But there's some games I avoid entirely because there's some games I play that I know is not going to grow my stream. I just play them because I absolutely love this game. I'll jump into Binding of Isaac and play it for a couple of hours on a stream. It doesn't happen very often, but I'll do it because I just want to play Binding of Isaac. Nobody wants to watch me play Binding of Isaac. I'm looking up items. I don't know what's going on. Like, I literally have a website next to me going, what does this do? Okay. And you know, nobody wants me to, but that's what I wanted to do that day, you know? So there is an emphasis on the new games, but almost never anymore if I'm not going to have fun with it. I just can't. It was not fun for me. I don't like the feeling of it not being fun. And these are my video games. You know, this is what I've done for forever. This is my one place to go, you know, when everything else is all up in the world. And now I'm gonna taint that, you know.
Sure.
And it took a while. Again, it took a while to realize that. So I do put emphasis, to answer your question, long story short, on new games, but not if I think that I'm not going to have fun playing them.
Cool.
Is it a different calculation for you, JP?
Yeah, I think I've just sold out. I think I just played. It really depends. Like, there's something to be said. When everyone goes to those other games, the idea of positioning comes in that you will be the top streamer for a game that everyone just jumped off of. So, you know, I'm trying to think. Bloodborne comes out on the 22nd. I think every streamer right now is 22nd, I'm playing Bloodborne. You could wait a week when everyone else finishes Bloodborne, and then you catch all those other viewers at the very end of it that want to watch it the next week. And I've kind of started to put a thought into maybe I should be the guy that waits a week, and maybe that viewership will still be there. Or maybe that's just a completely wrong decision. I should play right at the start. Like, I don't know.
You're right. You're absolutely right. There's been plenty of times, especially when I hit, like, I still consider myself a streamer that's, you know, growing, you know, like not quite there, but I'm making my way, like I'm clawing my way. And there were many, many, many times, especially, and I'm speaking right now to Twitch streamers that are like mid-level, you know, kind of stuff. That is so effective. Yeah. So. Watch Dogs for me, one of my biggest games. Everybody played it that first couple of days. Everybody said it was shit, and then they moved on. Ship, And what did I do? I played the crap out of that game for a month, and I loved it. Not because it had a great story. The story was crap. I didn't like it. There was a lot about that game I didn't like, but that online 1v1,
it was good. That
was fun, and I could do that for a while, and nobody else was there, and there were people still interested in the game. So, yes.
The weird thing about Twitch, and I've said this a billion times, like in so many different areas, it's literally the Wild West. There are no rules right now. No one knows what the hell's going on in a lot of things. And so, like, I'm the type of person that's constantly testing and constantly like looking at data to see if it's actually worth it to do X. And if it works, then it works out. But it might be something that only works for that month. Maybe the next month it doesn't work. So.
But it seems to me there's another angle too about the question about what to play, which is, are we reaching a point where the kind of live streaming industry is such that developers are getting interested, you know, there's partnership, like sponsorship deals, and how do you decide? Just, you know, on the one hand it's a business, but you want to be doing something that's fun.
I think it's a personal decision that every streamer makes. Like, do you want to make X amount of dollars playing Evolve? And most of the time, you can't really have a negative opinion. A lot of the contracts are very strong in their wording when it comes to that. Or do you want to play Evolve and just be able to say, hey, this game's actually dog shit? Like, you got to make that call both for yourself and for your community, which for me, a lot of the times when I'm playing a game, I actually bring my community into it. Like, do they want to see this played? How do they want to see this played? If I did a sponsored stream for this, how are they going to think? And I think most streamers are always thinking about like how their community will perceive them for doing X. And maybe that's not the best way of doing it, but that's the way that I've personally handled it.
I've done 2 sponsored streams, and I disliked both of those experiences very much. And I think I've learned, for me anyways, that now these were 2 games that, one of them I probably wouldn't have played, one of them I would have. And again, this is a personal choice, but I felt like because I couldn't say something bad about this game, or I felt obligated not to say something bad about this game, that my integrity as a streamer will, like, these people are looking to me saying, hey, you're just a guy that plays video games, that's why we're listening to you. And I'm sitting here going like, oh, well, this game has this that's really great and this that's really great, and I'm not going,
Yeah,
this is crap. Yeah, you know, and I didn't like the feeling of it, so I haven't taken any sponsorships since then. I'm hoping to maybe, again, mesh the two, you know, a sponsorship for a game that I'm really excited to play. You know, that's like the perfect scenario.
Yeah.
But even then, I don't think I can hold back from saying, this sucks. Like, this part of this sucks. I like this, but this needs to be worked on. But here's the thing is that you can always provide constructive criticism. And the developers know that. The developers love feedback. They really do. If they're any good at what they're doing, they love feedback. And there's a way to say, all right, this is what I like about this game, and this is what I don't, and here's why. You know, and I think that a lot of developers, even if they paid you, will understand that kind of critique. You know, a professional critique, as long as you're not just like, this is horse shit, you know, blah 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 blah. You know, like, you know, you give nothing there. There's no substance. You know, because at least if you're giving that foundation and that criticism in a constructive way, then they at least feel like their money isn't, you know, going to waste. You're still promoting the game. You're still showing the game off, and you're saying, here's how we can make it better. You know, and they always want to make their game better.
And I think also your community, regardless of if you say it or not on the cast, they're going to know if you're having fun or not. They've seen you when you're having fun. They've seen you when you're not having fun. And they can immediately, you know, people ask in the chat is, I think the #1 question the streamers get asked, like, is this game any good? Or what do you think, how do you feel about this game? And regardless of what you say on stream, the people in the chat that have watched the stream for a long time will actually, most of the time, say the answer that you're going to say, because they're that familiar with you. They know your interest in games, and they know kind of how you react to everything. And so when it comes to sponsored deals, it's a weird thing. I think the dream contract is the contract that says you can say whatever you want about the game as long as you're playing it. Those are very rare, because people don't want to give you money, obviously, to shit on their game in front of a bunch of 1,000 people. Like,
so will you preview a game, then sign the contract?
I mean, it depends. Most of the time you won't get code access when it comes to a lot of the games that are not released, so you can't really preview it. I think for me, I'll try to, I have a list of games, I think every streamer does, of games that they want to play in the future. And if a deal comes in, for me, an example is Shadow of Mordor. Fantastic game, came out last year. They approached me, I knew I was going to enjoy it because I enjoy this type of games. I actually got the contract reworked because they worked with me to say where I could say whatever I wanted about it. But I was generally positive about the game because it's an awesome game. So that's kind of like the dream contract. There are contracts out there where I won't name the game, but like, hey, come play our game and don't say anything bad about it, even though it's probably going to be a bad game.
Right.
And people will sign that, but I mean, people have to make money one way or another. So.
I want to open it up to the audience in a second, but that point leads me to maybe one question to ask you. Those of you I've talked to before probably anticipate this question, which is, the relationship between the content you're producing and the fact that it's content owned by developers, and how you're thinking about creative production, IP, ownership. I mean, we keep seeing little skirmishes every now and then. We have, you know, audio regulation systems that, you know, algorithms that now jump in. So how are you thinking about the content you produce and ownership? The same with esports. I mean, how should we speak?
This is a really simple answer to this. Just don't stream anything Nintendo.
That's really. There are certain developers like Nintendo where you know generally streaming's okay, but don't think about ever repurposing to throw that on YouTube because they're going to claim whatever. But I think that it's something that's come up recently where, you know, should I stream X game from X developer because of who knows what. And for me, I tend to just be like, if I enjoy the game, I'm going to stream the game. It doesn't matter so much. Doesn't matter if there's a billion different things that can occur from a game developer's point of view that could affect the game and the community around it. But if the game's good, I don't care what the developers have done on a personal level. Like, I just enjoy the game.
And I think on an esports level, we spent a good chunk of the start of esports with zero developer support. They didn't care. They begrudgingly let us use their games. Sometimes they had a licensing system in place. Sometimes they didn't. Valve was notoriously hands-off in all the versions of Counter-Strike until this last one. And now they all care, especially when it comes to esports. Again, they care. Developers care so much about esports that they're making up games and calling them esports when they're not. You know, and they fail. You know, when they put millions of dollars behind Shoot Mania, and they call it the next esport when the game itself isn't properly built. We're not going to accept it. We're not going to sell out and call it an esport. We don't need it because we got that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one that are all esports. You got to beat those. So I think Blizzard and everyone and Riot and everyone caring about esports is a great thing. I think maybe in some regards, and obviously Valve now cares with Counter-Strike Go, I think you can look at two case scenarios. I think Valve treats it really, really kind of properly in the sense that they're hands-on, but they're hands-off. They let a lot of people use their game, a lot of different competing companies use their title, so to speak. And then the opposite side of that, you've got Riot. And nothing happens with that game without the boys at Riot saying it's cool. To the point where you can't even take that guy, the faker thing.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to mention.
About like rights and IP and who owns what.
Yeah,
so they're very, I mean, they have built the LCS, this magical league, right? That is the top of esports. It fills stadiums. Valve does that kind of on the side, and Blizzard does that kind of on the side. The difference is if Riot all of a sudden shifts and goes, hey, let's make a new game, and they pull millions and millions and millions of marketing dollars away from the LCS, that sport collapses around itself because they have built the only place to play. Valve hasn't built that. Blizzard hasn't built that. They have their majors. Blizzard has its WCS. But again, if that had to go back to a little bit more organic, it would survive. But Riot has built their own pedestal that they have to now super fund. And again, they have one game. That's all they make right now. There's always talk about a second game, but so it works. And they're as a production nerd, their stuff is glorious. I mean, it is the best in the business. But they spend millions on their studios because these aren't like ones they roll into for a week. Like they build out studios like you would for Hollywood talk shows and all those kind of things, right? So they do a lot of that stuff really well. But again, it's made that a very precarious place, which I think also you fall into the spectate faker situation, right? Where they have a tool set that this website was able to go in and grab the APIs and show anyone who's playing a ranked match. This kid then went, whoa, let me take this most popular player in the world and I'll take his POV from this, not his Zubu stream, and I'll stream it. And woo, boy, has it opened a can of worms, right? Who owns Faker's content? Does Faker even own it? Can Faker say, I don't want you to stream my stuff, even because you're not really re-streaming. I'm not grabbing JP's content. And Azubu, fired the first shot. They obviously have an exclusive streaming contract with the player, but they illegally filed a cease and desist against this kid, right? You can't do that, right? They don't own the content. Just because it's Faker's game, it's not what Faker signed his rights away, right? So obviously it created a huge swirl. If you're not familiar with it, I definitely suggest you check it out because it's actually opened up a lot of legal discussions about who, and at the end of the day, Riot owns it because it all started with Riot's engine. But how you get from point A to this kid, again, re-streaming, so to speak, a tool set that Riot put in place for you to watch. So I'm watching it. I just happen to have all these other people watching. Is that so wrong? And again, like it just creates a really interesting dynamic. Again, the developers own it all. Like you guys said, Nintendo seems to be the one that is the most strong arming when it comes to especially YouTube content.
Sure. I think to like re-answer the question, if a company doesn't want you to stream the game, we just won't. And they're actually going to lose out because the possibility of 100,000 people getting free eyes on their game is lost. And so if you look at a game like H1Z1, here's a game where people, the dev team are super involved in Twitch. They know all the streamers. They help all the streamers get in game. They are constantly in the streamers' chat, interacting, getting feedback and things like that. And that's the way that you do it, I think, on Twitch, where I can't think of a bad example where devs will just like not allow you to stream a game. But if there is one, that's the terrible way of approaching it. Putting any restrictions on a streamer is automatically going to make people dislike their game 100%. Where if you just let them stream it, it's free advertising.
So, it seems like right now the model is the PR, the advertising is good. It's an interesting model for production. Though.
Well,
I
and
think
they even shifted. Because there's dev streams, there's music streams.
Right, absolutely.
And H1Z1 is a prime example of that as well. Like they had a couple dev sessions that I tuned in long ago, and a guy was making a zombie. One of their artists was like
Yeah.
And he was talking to chat, and he's like, "Oh, what should I do? Okay, yeah, let's chop half his ear off."
Yeah.
You know, and like,
Yeah.
so like they're showing
Absolutely.
their work because again, everyone thinks making the game's easy. So I like that curtain being peeled back where you see some of that stuff too.
Absolutely.
You see transparency all the time,
Absolutely.
regardless of if it's the illusion of transparency or if
Exactly.
it actually is transparency.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I think you said it best. Like Twitch is the Wild West. The internet, in a lot of ways, is the Wild West, and laws work like this, like that, and like the internet's going like that. You know, so I think a lot of these things are going to start popping up, and I think it's going to become more prevalent, especially as Twitch becomes more popular and there's more broadcasters and more situations present themselves.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be very interesting to see where things fall.
It'll be
I think it'll almost all. My prediction is it'll almost always fall back to who created.
Yeah.
Who created.
Yeah.
And that's
Precedent,
and that,
for sure. Yeah.
You know, like at the end of the day, like you said, like whenever we play an MMO, okay, we jump onto a server and we get that item and then we try to sell that item on eBay or something like that. You can't really do that because that item is generated on their servers and technically they own it. Just because your character found it doesn't mean that you created it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I really think that at the end of the day, it's going to go back to whoever created things, which is kind of scary.
Well, that's the thing that I'm always left with wondering, though, is when I look at the kind of creative work you all do, does that framework make sense? You know, on the one hand, yeah, you're playing a game somebody created, but when I think of all the other stuff that's going into your production, I'm left wondering if that's a kind of sufficient model of ownership and creativity.
You know, when I think about it, I think of the game as a stage. Any game is my stage, and I jump into it and I perform and I entertain. And I don't think that every comedian, you know, pays royalties to the person who develops stages. You know, like, you know, like whoever, you know, generations. Yeah. So, I mean, and this may be a flawed way of thinking about it. This is the only way that I've really thought about it is, this is my area to go in and create what people are here to watch, you know? And I know that the game is part of that, but I think the fact that I've gone game to game to game to game and my audience has grown more and more and more and more, it's getting to the point where a lot of them don't care what I play. They just want to see me.
Gotcha.
They just want to see me doing anything.
I think generally if you ask a streamer like the legalities of everything, we don't think about it on purpose because it's a scary thing that one day this could all be gone.
Yeah.
And it actually, tomorrow Twitch could be like, well, we got sued, we're packing it up. Like, it could happen. We just don't think about that because it's a really dreadful thing to think about.
Yeah, and on the esports side, like I think about it all the time. Because like again, we always compare ourselves to traditional sports in a lot of ways. And like, yes, the NFL might run professional football, but like the football itself will never disappear as an invention. It'll never be illegal to use.
Right.
Maybe that would be weird, wouldn't it? So those sports live or die based on popularity and use and all those kind of things. Obviously, you've seen skateboard go up and down over the years and all those kind of things. But our sports come and go at the whim, potentially, of a developer. No doubt about that. I mean, you can, Quake's a prime example of a game that was well on a hot track to be one of the greatest esports developed, and then over the years, each version sucked. Counter-Strike, you know, Valve finally cared and says, well, we'll make a version, we'll make this game called Counter-Strike Source. It's gonna be awesome, a new Source engine. And it did this, right? A lot of people liked the game, but it wasn't the 1.6 version of Counter-Strike that had built an esport. So for me, an esports guy, and again, ask any StarCraft Brood War fan what their favorite esport is. It's not StarCraft 2, it's Brood War. And that's virtually dead as a sport in that sense, right? So I think about it all the time. I'm very privileged right now. I'm very lucky that my favorite game on the whole planet came back. Counter-Strike came back. It's popular more than ever.
The game that won't die.
But ask me 5 years ago, I'd be crying in my beer back. Oh, the glory days. Remember JP?
And if Twitch goes down, remember our faces because you are all MIT students. Take us with you wherever you're going, please.
And so I can only imagine, like, if you then put yourself in the pro player's shoes of those games. You know, you defer college, you do all, you live in in Korea on the floor for years, and then all of a sudden, through no fault of your own, there goes your career, your sport. I think they're getting more stable. Again, like I said, I think the developers now caring and they understand, hey, will sell your game. It helps sell your game the longer your game exists. But it still is that like, oh man, how long is it gonna last? The clock is ticking on this game, you know. And then you'll see people try to getting it out, right, because of that.
And I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of broadcasters would back me up on this. I think that we're trying to encourage developers to have a relationship with us as streamers so that we both grow our respective venues, you know, like, and again, Sony was a wonderful example. Well, Sony was a wonderful example of that with H1Z1. I think they did an awesome job of that. They invited us out. We played the game a little bit early. We got some hype, and then they stuck with it, and they kept working with us, and they kept working with the feedback that they were getting from all sources, Reddit, you know, the Twitch, everything. So I think at the end of the day, I don't want to look at it as the streamers versus the developers. Because
working together is the best.
Yeah, because working together makes so much more sense.
It's profitable for both. I mean,
and that's the direction it's going too. That's what it seems like it is, anyways.
I will fight anyone that says DayZ would be popular if it wasn't for if streamers and YouTubers never played the game. Like that game never would have gotten anywhere if it wasn't shown how stupid things can occur in that game. And then people just started buying it. Yeah, now everyone regards it as like one of the best, and it's the first in like the survival horror genre. The H1Z1 is basically a clone of it, et cetera, et cetera. So Twitch has made the games, some games, their entire business. And I think those devs are the ones that will go further than other devs because they understand that and the others don't.
Why don't we open it up to the audience? Comments, questions? I know we also have, there's a lot of streamers in the audience, a lot of folks curious about streaming, so comments, questions. And also we have the live stream and Twitter, so I think if there's one from there. Yeah, please.
How important would you say sources outside of Twitch, like social media, play into your, we were talking about earlier, you were saying stuff that work doesn't stop when you stop trading. Does that mean, like, what do you do in terms of keeping people kind of interested? Is social media part of that?
To an extent.
Should I repeat the question for the stream? Do you think? Yeah. So do you want to repeat it? Because you were an answer. Okay. Oh no. So the question was, what role does social media and sort of these other spaces play in the stream and the work you're doing for the stream?
I think that it's important, but it's not the most important thing. Social media is a great way to keep your name relevant, which is a really weird thing to say and think about. But at the end of the day, when I say that work continues when I go offline, it's things like answering all of the emails from developers or responding to people that have sent you a private email or a private PM, or just doing things that really suck, like taxes, which right now every streamer is dealing with. And if you're not, you should, because that's going to really suck.
It's not free.
And it's things for me like graphics or a lot of the work that I do, I have to be constantly talking to people and prepping for shows and planning shows, and then getting all of those shows out so that people know when the show is going to occur, because if I don't, I get crucified. So that's what I mean, like when the stream stops, the work doesn't for me.
Okay, so there's one me and there's thousands of people that watch every day, and it's impossible for me to have a personal relationship with everybody that comes through my stream. It's just absolutely impossible. And I do the best I can reading the chat and interacting and stuff like that. What social media allows me to do is sometimes have opportunities to talk to people on a personal level that I wouldn't have had while I'm live broadcasting. So besides just the fact that it may help me grow my stream, I'm actually getting to meet some really great, cool people using my social media. And on some days I get off the stream and I don't want to answer my private messages. I look at them and there's like 50 of them and I'm just like, I'm just gonna go eat something. So, but at the same time, like, I do enjoy interacting with these people that watch the stream. I love seeing fan art. I loved it when it pops up on my Twitter and somebody's put my face on, whatever the hell they want to put my face on. And I love that. And I'm like, that's cool. Thanks for doing that. That's so cool. So, but there's also the business side of it, which isn't, obviously the personal side of it, which is that whenever we go live, we have an avenue to let people know that we're broadcasting. So we all, for those of you who have used Twitch, the follow notification system is not always as accurate as we would like it to be. I've had people come in, just last night somebody came into my stream and goes, how long have you been streaming? And I was like, 2.5 hours. And he's like, I just got an email.
Yeah, if you use your phone, you actually get pretty reliable updates on when someone goes live.
Yeah,
the only thing that, if you wait for the email, it'll never come.
So I come up with other avenues in which to do that, which is I hit Twitter, which Twitter automatically updates to my Facebook, and I use my Steam group too, which adds a notification that pops up instantly to everybody who's online right then, playing whatever game they are, for better or for worse, because sometimes it'll knock them right out of their game, and they'll go, my Diablo 3 hardcore character just died because you want to let me know that you're streaming, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to stop it. No, but it's a good way in a business sense to get your stream, I wouldn't say notice, to allow everybody who's already seen your stream to know when you're broadcasting. It's a good way of doing that. And on the other side of it, the more personal side, I get to talk and interact with people who, are maybe some of these people I could, be best friends with, like to the end of the time, and I just don't see them when the chat's going, like this, and someday he sends me some artwork and I'm like, wow, that's really good. Do you do art? Yeah, I do art. Hey, why don't you try your hand at making an emo? And then they make an emo, and then they become your mod, and then they're in your mod group, and then you're like meeting up at PAX, and then it's, that kind of thing can happen.
It does happen.
Yeah. So both sides, I think it's important. But I will say that the actual work, I agree with you. It doesn't come it is, some days it feels like work, but I think there's other things that we do, off stream that constitute more of that work than social media.
Sure.
I think there's a gentleman in front there. Yeah.
Yeah. For me as a broadcaster, the biggest thing that I struggle with is finding balance between cast life and real life.
Yeah.
JP was talking about how he's always working, right? Doing there. I'd like to hear from you all what you do to try to find that balance. What do you do to try to make sure that the groceries are bought?
Yeah, that's a problem. I actually don't buy groceries.
I want to know if Ello did anything special for his birthday today.
What?
It's not my birthday.
Oh no, this is a joke. Yes, I've heard about. That's right. Okay.
My stream has this joke where every day they're like, "Happy birthday!" and the thing you should do is be like, oh, thanks, man, cool, just play it off, right? Because that's how you handle the trolls. But then you'll get somebody who donates $50. And be like, happy birthday, Ella, I didn't even know. And you're like, this guy just gave me $50 because he really legitimately thinks it's my birthday. I played along trying to, no!
He's gonna be pissed
so
tomorrow.
Every day, I'm 400 years old, so. No, I've really been struggling with this.
This is the question about balance between cast life and real life.
I just sent out a big letter on Twitter, a public letter, listen, this is what it is right now. I just had my first kid, my daughter, 6 months ago, and I'm extremely happy for that, and I love her to death, and I have a super supportive girlfriend who I love so much, and but even with her support and the kid and everything it's been so hard for me to find balance. It really
I have no idea how the hell you do that. Yeah. I can't even buy groceries, and you have a living person that is your responsibility.
There's no way around it. My streams changed entirely because of it. Up until the point where my daughter was born, my stream, I was on there every day for 8 hours plus, let's do this and let's do that. I might even come back for an evening stream, but since the baby was born, it's just been man, I'm tired. I'm freaking tired. Oh my gosh, are we taking our first shots today? Are we, like that? And all these things that you deal with as a parent regularly, that everybody has to deal with when they're having a child and they're trying to maintain a job, So to answer your question, I'm just now striving to find that balance, and I haven't yet. So I'm not really the best person to really answer this, but what I will say is that if you're struggling with that, just know that I am also struggling with that. And I will say that it is getting easier when I try not to look at it as a job, but it gets easier for me to view it as a job because I've had a lot of feedback from my viewers that say, Ello, people go to work every day and have kids, and they go to work for 40 hours a week, some even more than that, and you can't get up and play a video game for us, and I'm sitting here going oh man. And you know, part
And then
of
you
it,
ban them, like,
unmod, you know, like, one of thousands. What do I care? You know? No, but it hits home, and so viewing it lately as a job, still trying to. It's kind of a weird, complex situation because I don't want to view it as a job, but having the work ethic there for the job is what has been making it easier for me to come back and, you know, give something to the viewers, because man, it's tough. And not just kids, I mean, it could be anything. I mean, anything in life. Twitch becomes everything.
it really does.
If you want to become a successful broadcaster, Twitch becomes your life, man. And that is, I can't say it any plainer than that. And maybe you guys will disagree. I know we have a lot of broadcasters here, but like Twitch is just like, everything revolves around Twitch right now. And I'm trying to find a way to have things revolve around family and Twitch, you know, and it's tough. Still working at it. I think I'm getting a lot better at broadcasting consistently. But there's some mornings when, you know, baby Junie has teeth coming in and Cora feels sick. And sorry guys, I get on Twitter and I let them know, sorry guys, no broadcast this morning. Cora's sick and I need to be there for her. And you know, these broadcasts go for hours. It's not like you can't be on call for something like that. Like, oh, I'm gonna get up in 30 minutes and then come back after 15 minutes and then get up an hour later. So anyways, yeah, I suck. Just like you.
I don't have a whole lot to add. Obviously, I've not ascended like these guys have in the sense of having to worry about the streaming schedule. But again, I think like you said, it's like anything in life. You just need to figure out your balance and don't be afraid to stick to it, you know? We all want to give, right? Especially when we're getting this gratitude and this love, whether it's financial or just people enjoying your stream. And somewhere along the way, you do have to have a life, whether you have a wife or kid or not. And you just, again, like you're really good about setting a schedule, you know? Like
That's like the number one
I'm here and I'm here and then I'm gone, you know? And don't go that extra hour because you're having fun. Like, because she's hanging out behind you and you're supposed to go somewhere with her, right? And I was married once and I wasn't a streamer then, but I was a hardcore gamer. And I was, Scott, this is it. This is the last map. No, just one more map, honey. You know, and there's two ways to go with that. Either divorce or you sit her next to you and she starts playing, right? But then nobody's shopping for groceries, right? So, thank God there's takeout. So I think you just have to figure out what works for you and your viewers and just kind of do the best you can to stick with it. I think they're going to be very understanding that things come up and that, you know, I'm not going to stream today. And you just, again, that a whole life is far more important to you as a human being than the most amazing Twitch life or Hitbox life or whoever you stream on, right? So you just got to find that balance.
I think that schedule is probably the number one reason, but I understand that when you're not live, you're not making money. I understand that thought process. And the idea of like, I'm not going to stream today means I'm probably going to miss out on a bunch of money. And that's really shitty, but you have to. Otherwise, you just can't, like, it sucks really bad if you don't take that day off. And so there's been days where I've like forced myself to just not even go in the computer room. Because the second I turn on the PC, I'm going to either start talking to someone about streaming, I'm going to watch a stream, I'm going to want to turn on the stream. So I just will like go get in the car and drive somewhere and just get myself away from the PC. And that's how I deal with it. I think that you just have to like find your own way to deal with it.
I should try going outside.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Depending on where you live, it might be an alright idea.
You can't walk around just like hammers.
Not here.
No, but I think I want to touch on something else. The viewership, your viewers, man, like they will have your back, even when they're mad at you, even when they're like, "Where have you been? You haven't been." I mean, the viewership. I mean, how you got people that love you, Bacon, like people that absolutely love you, and if you want to take a day and say, "Hey, I want to spend some time with my family," like 99% of those people are going to be okay with that, and you are going to get the grumbles of those other people, but. For me, that time that I spend with my daughter in the mornings when she is the happiest, you know, those are the times I'm normally streaming. So when I have those days off, man, I love it. Yeah. And I really enjoy spending time with her. But that's only because my viewership has been so patient with me and so kind and so helpful, you know, even their critical feedback is helping me, you know. So yeah, I think it goes back to the viewers too, and they'll have your back.
There's one thing to be said too, that if you're someone who streams, let's say 7 days or 7 hours every day of the week, if you don't go live for a certain day and you start making that a schedule, people will actually want to tune into your stream more because they can't watch it every single day. It's more of like something that's select. Think of like Game of Thrones. Sure, everyone would want to watch the entire seasons of Game of Thrones, but having that week in between is actually something that's really awesome because then everyone talks about it. Everyone is anticipating the next episode. And so if you kind of like handle streams that way, it works, but you can't do obviously a week. You need to make sure you're streaming at a frequency that's good enough to support yourself. But the idea of taking a break, it's not necessarily a bad thing. People will be more excited to tune in because they want to know what you did that day. And then that's how you kind of get those viewers to come back. It's stupid things like that that I put in my brain that sound good. Who knows if they actually are.
Yeah, then you got like a machine like Co, like the stream's like every day.
Yeah,
like
he's,
you know, and again, it's what this all comes back to what you're comfortable with as a broadcaster and what you are comfortable with as a person. And for me, trying to do a stream everyday challenge is something that just doesn't work for me. Works for other people just fine. Not for me. I need a break. If not just to spend with my family, just because I need a break. There's very few other entertainment, venues where you're standing up or sitting down, I guess, in front of thousands of people.
Who stands up.
Who stands up, and being in front of thousands of people every day for that many hours, entertaining. You know, typically like a comedian would go up and do a skit for, the longest, maybe a couple of hours, but mostly usually for 15, 30 minutes. They do their spiel. They do the same spiel every time. And then, they do that for a weekend or maybe a couple, days in the week, honing their craft. But they're in and they're out, Yeah. But this thing is like 8 hours a day of nonstop talking. If you're an interactive streamer, nonstop entertainment, always trying to focus on what, the game and then focus on the chat and it gets stressful, you get tired out. I need that day. And I think a lot of people, that's why you have, 40-hour work weeks and not 100. So.
Yeah. Other questions? Yeah, gentlemen.
So we talked about like the catastrophic thing that can happen to Twitch, it gets sued and all goes under, but past that, do you expect Twitch to kind of plateau at some point? Like, it's growing, but is it going to slow down and then stop growing and then, start regressing? Like, do you anticipate something like that happening? And, what would you do if that does start occurring?
I'll just repeat the question real quick for the broadcast. So the question was, we've talked a little bit about, if Twitch was to shut down completely, but what about the other issue of just plateau instead and just kind of maybe sort of even out? Things have definitely been growing a lot the last few years.
Yeah.
So.
And that will happen. That will absolutely happen. Definitely. Because once everyone in the world is watching Twitch, which is the direction we're going, eventually we will plateau. Eventually, right?
That's the only time I agree.
No, I don't know. JP, go.
I think that Twitch and kind of new media in general, it started with YouTube, and now you have Netflix, where they actually are releasing entire shows, like counter of Game of Thrones. House of Cards came out, what was it, last week or something like that. 13 episodes. I've watched all 13 episodes already. People love consuming media, and Twitch is something that is always going to be on. And it's always going to be attracting people. So will it plateau? I don't really ever see it, unless the only time it'll ever plateau is if another streaming site comes in. Like, I don't know where media goes from that. Like, I don't know what the next evolution is, but I guess people didn't know that Twitch was the next evolution either. So until something kind of knocks it off that, I don't think we're ever going to see it stop growing anytime soon.
Scoots, you've lived through bubbles in esports and various broadcasts. What do you think?
Before Twitch even.
Yes.
If you ask Ustream right now, they'd kick themselves in the face for not caring about video games. Shame on you, Ustream. You had it all. You had it all, Ustream. I have to agree with JP. Like, I think it would be definitely future thinking to think that they're going to slow down anytime soon, especially when they're doing all they can to diversify and do as much as they can. You see the music stuff, you see the artistic stuff. It's already gone beyond just watching me game. And I think they're not alone. Obviously, there's about 4 other platforms that want to be Twitch. I don't think any of them are going to ever catch Twitch. It's too late. It's like no one's going to beat YouTube in that game. It's too late. If anyone, I think, that can give Twitch a run for their money, it will be YouTube Live. They have loaded guns of money too. So, but they've already tried once. The system needs a lot of work still. But if anyone can invest in it, it would be the YouTube guys, right? The Google guys. And I think, again, I'm from a generation that didn't have video games, right? I mean, I went to arcades as a kid. I played pinball machines. But even when I was born, that stuff didn't exist, right? And now, this generation, your kid is going to be completely wired in. So, like, there will be no stigma to like even considering watching someone play video games, because everyone has it on their phone and their different devices. Like, pretty soon it'll be attached in here somewhere. Again, at Twitch, again, a lot of us know the guys at Twitch. Like, they're incredibly innovative. I don't think they're ever going to rest until they're dead. Like I said, will it slow down? Will they get some sort of saturation point where, like you said, everyone in the world is watching Twitch? I don't know. YouTube is growing. All this content is growing. There's more and more people on the planet. And again, we're no longer like these people in the dark basements playing video games. We're the cool kids now, right? Kids. Like, what we do is the coolest thing ever, right? Everyone wants to do us. Everyone wants to, like, Frank Underwood wants to do me. No. Frank Underwood, right? Product placement, all those things in his show. But again, like, everyone's a game. My mom, I'll tell you a side story. My mom plays video games. My mom lives with me. I take care of her now, kind of a full circle of life going. And she is always been into the basics, right? So at first it was just when you could play solitaire on a Mac. She was all over that. That's really cool, solitaire. Card game, I know. Then it turned into the tile games, mahjong and all that, right? Now she is addicted to hidden object games, I guess what they're called, right? Find the candlestick, find this, find that. And I'll be in my little part of the house and she'll be in hers, and like literally, motherfucker! Peek over like, what? Oh, you can hear me? I'm like, yeah, I can hear you. She can't find the candlestick, or the jewels are dropping wrong.
Should set up
you gotta get her streaming, exactly.
One day I'm gonna hidden like capture her shit, right, and just put it on my stream. And Twitch would be like, you stupid old lady, the candlestick's right there. How dumb are you? Yeah. So both generations, right? The kids and the old folks are gaming too. So again, to answer your question again, I just. Sky's the limit may sound cliche, but God, who knows, man?
The weird thing to think about is that, like, mobile gaming is not even on Twitch yet, and it's the biggest thing in the fucking world. Like, it is massive. Like, massive. I cannot, it's huge.
How many of you have a phone?
Yeah.
How many of you have a game on the phone?
Yeah.
Congratulations,
And
you're
so
a gamer.
When that audience is brought over to Twitch, and that's what Twitch is, that's the holy grail for Twitch, is when they can get the mobile gaming market to watch stuff on Twitch. Like, that's just going to skyrocket to epic levels.
Well, and here's, okay, so maybe to answer your question a little bit more direct about Twitch, okay? I don't think there's ever gonna, look, I mean, I'm sure in the future when things evolve and whatever, there's gonna be people who have moved on from video games and to whatever next medium there is. But right now I believe that we are on the cusp of this great new form of entertainment, like the 1900s for movies, right? And we're all just starting to learn what this is all about, and we all love it, and everybody's gaming. Like I just said, if you have a phone, you have a game on, you played it, you're a gamer, congratulations. You know, everybody's doing that. So I don't think that the audience isn't going to be there. What I think is that if Twitch becomes, here's the thing about Twitch, it's kind of in a way kind of like Reddit, and I hate to say that, but just bear with me a little bit. There's a level of realness to the broadcasters, and there's a level of integrity that comes along with the broadcasters. And I think what would kill Twitch, if there was something that would make it plateau or make it go down, it's when the people broadcasting care more about this than about gaming.
If everybody
and it
sells
could
out.
very easily happen in the direction that it's going, because there's big money involved with video games. Huge money, you know, like huge. And when this money starts getting thrown at people in large amounts, it's going to be very, very, very interesting to watch some of these broadcasters and how things change. So to answer your question, do I think an audience is always going to be there? Yes. Now, with Twitch and concern, I believe that the integrity, if that gets tampered with and people start selling out or start, you know, really caring more about the money, I think that's when you'll start to see things plateau.
Other question. Ian, then back.
Great conversation. Really, I can see why you guys are popular. I'm Andre. I teach with TL here, and And I don't know so much about streaming, but in hearing you're talking about the legality of things and what could happen, I spent some time studying the hip-hop scene worldwide, especially Japan, but thinking historically about hip-hop. And there was a whole era in which sampling music is illegal. At first it wasn't seen as music, it was ignored. Then it was illegal and they were taking records off the shelves. And it went through a long process. And the legality of it actually hasn't changed very much. But as the recognition that this is a legitimate form of creativity and it needs to be accepted as such, I think was part of what made the music industry sort of make its peace with sampling. And even sampling within hip-hop has had different bubbles over time. But to me, it's just, I guess I want to have a note of encouragement to say that if you've got a community and people who believe that this is a form of creativity, then you're quite right, that's going to go faster than the law. But that the law is going to have to in some way catch up, because laws that just don't meet community standards don't last. They can last for a little while and they can make a mess of a few things, and you can get rid of Napster and LimeWire and Kazaa, but you don't actually get rid of sharing. And so anyway, I just think you're in this really interesting moment, and that given the kind of success you've already had, the law is not going to be able to stop you, would be my sense of things. And that's just thinking about music and sampling and how the law thought they could stop that too, and they were wrong.
You heard that, coppers? We're above the law!
Yeah.
No, thank you for that. That was definitely an interesting perspective.
For the stream, that was a note of encouragement. The creativity of what's happening in live streaming outpaces the law, and the law is just going to have to catch up at some point. Other question? Yeah, Jesse, you have one from...
on our Twitch chat, I've been asked to wish you happy birthday many times.
Happy birthday, Ella.
I have a bunch of questions from Twitch chat, and probably won't have time for many of them, but Nuclear Bleach asks, especially with something like TwitchCon coming up, is it just as important to network as a streamer as it seems in other careers, or do you think it's possible to create a successful stream all on your own?
How important is it for streaming?
It's important, but it's not. As someone who's, I guess, known for networking, it's important for me, but there are streamers who don't care about any other broadcast, and he's the #1 streamer on Twitch. So, like, it doesn't matter if you can approach it your own way, I guess is the best way to say it. In terms of getting started, it's easier to network, but if you keep doing it over and over, then eventually, hopefully, if you're entertaining and all the other factors, like, you'll start to rise.
I mean, I don't really care much about these guys as personal, but what they can provide for me for a business. No, I'm just kidding.
No, child. Think of the kids.
Exactly what he said. I mean, it's whatever you want to do. There's people who are successful on Twitch that don't network. Now, obviously, networking has huge benefits to growing any business, you know? So, yeah, I mean, yes, you can network, and that is important, but it's not a necessity.
But it's interesting the way, too, now the platform has hosting, which is a way of making very visible networks of broadcasters.
And some broadcasters don't use that at all.
Right.
And it might be, you know, from fear of their community going over to someone else's. It might be the fact that they just don't want to lose that viewership for whatever reason. But some people also host all the time. So every broadcaster is different. We're all special snowflakes.
There was a gentleman, yeah.
How do you guys feel about outside companies finally starting to figure out the reach that we have as streamers on Twitch? For instance, you see on esports when you watch League of Legends, players, they have like now like airline companies as sponsors, car companies as sponsors.
Sure.
Like, how would you feel 5 years from now? Do you think you can actually see drop frames brought to you by the new Lexus EXL and Ellohime playing Guild Wars 9 brought to you by Sour Apple Twizzlers,
Which I love.
Wink, wink. If you're out there, Twizzlers.
Do you feel like that's gonna like make your audience feel more different than maybe an esports audience, like the difference between the two?
Well, when I about that, I just grab a refreshing Poland spring.
It's like that Wayne's World.
that doesn't hit the spot, the fuzz iced tea will. No, the way I approach it, and again, this is all like broadcaster, you know. If it makes sense to what I do and what I like in my everyday life, then that makes it something that could be a sponsor. So if, like Loot Crate, for example, I have Loot Crate as an affiliate. And the reason I have Loot Crate as an affiliate is because I had bought 6 months of Loot Crate for my buddy's daughter on her birthday to have every month, you know, for her to open up and have. And she still has it to this day because I haven't canceled it. But the thing is that, you know, 6 months, 8 months later, when Loot Crate was like, hey, would you like to, you know, work together or, you know, whatever, I was like, absolutely, because I used that product. I like that product. So for me, it's any product that I'm using in my everyday life that I can vouch for, like a DX Racer chair. I love my DX Racer chair. I love that thing. If they came up to me and was like, hey, let's work together, I'd be absolutely, because I use this and I know that it's good. Now, if, you know, Pepperidge Farms, you know, came in through and like, yeah, our new crispy Kringle, you know, popcorn, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if I've never tried that product, I know nothing about that product, I'm probably not gonna do anything with it. Now, if Mountain Dew, I drink a lot of Mountain Dew on stream already. If they came up to me, yeah, absolutely. These are things that I like in my life, and if I want to share these with my friends, you know, if you had never had a Mountain Dew, I would go out and find you a Mountain Dew right now, and I would give it to you, like, try this. This is what I love. And it's the same thing for the people viewing the stream. At least that's how I've always viewed it. So when I'm looking at sponsors, or if I'm looking at people who want to work together or anything like that, I want to know that the product that I'm putting forward to everybody else is something that I would use myself and that has benefited me in my life for some way. Not that Mountain Dew benefits your life, but it's really delicious.
It's really delicious.
But that is sort of different than how esports has, right? Esports has been struggling to move from like things hardcore gamers would use to like MasterCard is now sponsoring.
Yeah, and that's actually one of our biggest shifts these last several years. Again, thanks to free streaming platforms and the ability for far more people to enjoy streams. You know, if you look at the history of like snowboarding and skateboarding is a prime example as sports. They started guys in pools, guys building ramps, and then the only people that would give these kids any sort of money were the people that were endemically related to that sport. Guys that made the trucks and the boards and the wheels and the attire. Those are endemic sponsors. Our endemic sponsors are mouse pads, keyboards, monitors, computers, all that stuff. So that's like that's the low-hanging fruit, right? Because they want you to tell them how great that monitor is, all your viewers, because you use it, right? But that's generally smaller marketing budgets as well, right? Coca-Cola, huge marketing budget, right? Acer, maybe not so much. So skateboarding grew out of that, obviously, into stuff like the X Games and crazy, speaking of Mountain Dew and Red Bulls and all that. And so has esports side of it. Again, we still have our endemic sponsors, Razer, SteelSeries, they all sponsor the heck out of this stuff. But again, the bigger money comes from these global marketing agencies that deal with car companies, telecom companies, you know, frosty, tasty drink companies like Coca-Cola. So I think it goes back to you as well. You would probably, your first sponsorships are going to be directly related to the stuff you use around you, whether it's keyboards, mouse, all that, headsets, microphones, all that kind of stuff. And to answer your kind of question, I would rather have you guys sponsored personally by those kind of companies and mainstream companies than take a developer's money and have to maybe bullshit an opinion. I'd rather you make your money and put a patch right there, right? And again, it's just like athletes, right? Tiger Woods, bad example, great golfer, but then like the Buick has nothing to do with the game of golf, right? But he has, well, had a Buick sponsorship. So that's success. That's getting into the bigger marketing dollars. I think the murky area that everyone gets into when you start thinking about people paying you to endorse a product is A, is the product for real? Is it legit? Am I selling out my fan base as I drink this Monster Energy drink? Because I don't really like it, but man, they're paying me a lot of money. And even in our little world, there's a huge kerfuffle over G2A, right? The marketplace and the keys and all that. And some streamers have said till they fix it, and some just don't care. I think every streamer has to decide, for lack of a better word, your sellout point. Because again, you might not like you might not love Pepperidge Farms, but if they come to you and say, hey dude, I need you $5,000 a month, all I need you to eat is some Milanos on stream, you're gonna start eating Milano, I mean, right? Sign me up, sign me up. So And again, I would much rather have you guys all get rich on personal sponsorships. Now, does it make sense that you get logoed up like a pro
Big
does?
graphics, yeah.
You already do it because you put stuff all over your pages. But I would much rather know that JP's taking money from Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper and Doritos and whoever, and what he's entertaining me with is not being influenced. Like, you know, he doesn't have to say, I am being paid to play Evolve, it's a great game.
Yeah.
That wasn't the game you were talking about, right?
No, I don't think so.
Whatever.
I don't know.
I liked Evolve.
I'm just teasing him. Does that make sense? You know, but again, you all have to find out, like, again, we all have a sellout point in life, whether it's a job we don't really want to take, but we know it's good money, and it's closer to home, so my commute's less. You all have to decide that. And as you become bigger and bigger influencers, and that's what you're all called now, you're not just streamers, you're influencers, right?
That's so gross.
That's why they want you.
I know, that's what it
you're
is.
You're an influencer. And you just got to decide, you know, where your line is. And again, I think all of your fan bases understand you have bills to pay. So if he showed up in a head-to-toe Mountain Dew tracksuit, they'd probably laugh and love it because he drinks Mountain Dew all the time.
I would look glorious.
Glorious.
I think the hardest part about that is going to be, and this is where Twitch proper comes into play, where the bigger companies, the Coca-Colas, the blah, blah, blahs, they don't actually know the numbers that we pull. And there's never been really a streamer that's shown them actual numbers because the stat tracking behind Twitch is so terrible. So once like those tools are available to us and we can have things, important stats like retention and how much actual audience we have, real solid numbers, then we can actually go to these sponsors with credible information and we can actually get credible money from them. A lot of the sponsorships right now on Twitch pay pretty fucking terrible for the actual viewership that we get. And you know, it's things like, here's a single PC for, you know, 5% of your entire screen real estate.
Yeah.
And things like that, I think, will eventually go away, and you'll start to see real money come into play. And then, of course, the whole sellout factor comes into play from there. But it'll be, I think, a couple of years from now until that starts to really become a priority for us to go out and actually talk to the Cokes, the bigger streams.
Yeah, and that's the other side of it. And we saw it a lot, maybe not so much now in esports, but back in the early days, like the marketers owned the players very, very cheaply. Oh, here's a keyboard, here's a mouse, here's a mouse pad. That's all they got.
Yeah.
Someone else had to fly them everywhere, but like those brands got placement everywhere. They were giving it away, right? Because they needed to have sponsorships, right? And like you would get guys that literally, teams back in the day that would get some piece of hardware from Intel.
Yeah.
Just one piece, like for a raffle or whatever, and all of a sudden on their webpage for the team, sponsored by Intel. That looks amazing, but they didn't get anything for it really, right? And as your viewer base does this, you can't give it to Coca-Cola because they'll just laugh and they'll, thank you. Here's a really small amount of money for those huge views. So it's knowing your own worth and being able to go, you know what, that's great for that streamer, but my base is this, so that's not gonna fly. And pro teams do it, you know. I was also with EG for a lot of years, and we had a couple different pitches, depending on who we were pitching, depending on how much money you had. And also our pitch grew as our reach grew. No longer were we gonna take 20 grand a year from a peripheral company. It's like, no, you're gonna pay us way more than that, and we want our own mouse. Yeah. Well, who do you think you are? Well, we're evil geniuses, and this is esports. You have to have that ego, right? Or marketing guys care about how much marketing they can get out there as cheaply as humanly possible, you know? And don't give them, like, think about, watch regular TV. You won't see a logo there for 8 hours, ever. You know, little things pop up and commercial breaks and all that, but like, in some regards, a lot of you guys, and I'm using figuratively you guys, are giving away amazing real estate for way, way, way too cheap, I would say.
Well, in another point too is there are so many broadcasters that are so young.
It has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely.
And I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for the Twitch streaming community to kind of band together on some of these things. Because, and I'm not putting this all on the younger crowd or anything, in my lawn, you know, that kind of thing. But at the same time, there's a very real aspect of a lot of these guys are younger people, and they haven't been in the business world, and they don't understand their worth, like exactly what you said. And so when somebody says, here's a free computer, just have this up for however many years, and we'll just put it right here in the corner of your thing, and this and this and that. They're like, I get a free computer? You know, like, they're not thinking of the long term, you know, here, and they're not thinking of, oh, wow, like any other legitimate business would go, okay, well, that's a great offer, but here's what I was thinking. And, you know, boom, 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 lay it out. And I think as Twitch goes on and as these, you know, streamers grow, you know, we'll see less and less, you know, problems with that. But I think right now, I think there's a big issue with people just not understanding how to be good businessmen. And the thing is that it's not really their fault. They flipped on a stream and played video games.
They have no experience.
Yeah.
Well, and this is where I kind of hope, like, I feel like TwitchCon, where if it's devoted nothing to Twitch, like, these are the kind of panels they need to create, like, and have workshops on and stream all that good stuff. Because again, only so many people can come to San Francisco for it. But like, there's older streamers. Like I said, you guys are way more knowledgeable. You've been burned, maybe. You know what to look out for.
I've been in esports.
You've been in esports.
That's the. Well, it's a good. We've hit 8 o'clock. If nothing else, it's a good encouragement, I think, for us to do this again here at MIT, because there's a lot more we could. We could fill up many more hours.
How about every PAX East?
I was thinking of that. Our pre-PAX at MIT. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for our panelists. This has been really fantastic. I want to give Renee a shout out. She texted, she's down with laryngitis. So I encourage you all, check her out on Twitter and check out her stream as well. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next year, hopefully. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, you guys rock. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm about halfway through your book. Holy crap.